So, today we're going to talk about something, we've kind of done this before in terms of, we've done a similar video, but I'm going to do, instead of just ranking the Harry Potter movies, and you've kind of got my book reviews, we're going to do them all as one big video, so we're ranking all the Harry Potter, stuff. This one, by the way, will be different, because my opinions have changed slightly. So there will be a bit of a shift in terms of one thing being where it is. So we'll get into that in a bit. Okay, before we get into the video, remember I stream over on Twitch, so go check that one out. I'll leave a link for that down in the description. And let's get on with the video. To start off in final place, we're going to go with The Cursed Child. I'm not going to speak too much about this one because this one's kind of obvious. I felt it wasn't really true to the source material, and half of the plot just didn't make any sense, and it was just too over the top and just far-fetched, and it just fell from that very high standard that I'd begun to expect from the Harry Potter books. And then when they released this, it was kind of a bit like, part of me just tries to consider this not as canon. I don't want to even speak about this, it's just leave it alone. And if anyone's wondering, I have shaved my beard. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I just thought. Okay, so if we switch over to the next one, we're going to go with Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald. This one was a bit difficult because it was a film made for the fans. So from a film standpoint, from a filmmaker, it was a terrible film. And then part of this is because they kind of focus on that Harry Potter kind of audience. They're like, oh, they're going to love this because it's got all the characters you had in the previous ones. It has bringing back some, bring Dumbledore, played as Jude Law, who did a good job. But part of me is annoyed because even when they try to focus on these Harry Potter fans, and that's what they're aiming at, they got McGonagall completely wrong. Don't know how she's working for Hogwarts then. She should be 12. So it's a bit weird. Timing's all off. You'd think that someone as heavy as J.K. Rowling with her kind of things, let's not mention her Twitter, steer away from that. But, I mean, her kind of dedication to try and keeping everything to make sense, I don't know what you would call that. But, yeah, basically her attempts there kind of failed here. As well as other things like this whole weird thing with the other Dumbledore. I don't even know about that. Anyway, let's skip on to the next one. Fantastic Beasts. The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The first one. I felt this one did a good job of trying to recapture that magic. It didn't successfully do it in terms of the same hype for the original series, but it did a good job and the cast was great. The only reason I really like the Fantastic Beasts films is because I love Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander, and I just love his character. So that was kind of the highlight of this movie, and it just gave you a little more of an insight into what was kind of introduced in Goblet of Fire with the whole other wizarding schools, and just a little bit of background on wizards outside of just Hogwarts. And this one does a good job of building some of that up, but obviously it doesn't. It feels too dissimilar from the original series that I kind of wasn't a bigger fan as I would have liked to have been. So let's move on to the next one, which will be the Half-Blood Prince film. And this one took a big misstep in terms of where the focus of the narrative was supposed to be. If you look at the book, it was supposed to be, you had Draco's mission and becoming of a Death Eater. You had Lord Voldemort's backstory. You had the mystery over who is the Half-Blood Prince. And then you had the tiny bit of the story, which was focused on the kind of teen drama. And that's what they chose to focus on. Because I can understand they tried to do something different. They were like, let's make this Harry Potter a bit different from the others, so it's not focused on entirely the action and they were like, let's focus on the characters and their development. And what happened there was they ruined Ginny's character, who is one of my favourites from the books, and not only that, they kind of just made it was just a mess. They even then added a scene of the Burrow getting attacked, probably because they focused too much on the kind of, what do you call it? They focus. Basically, I don't know what happened there. The Burrow got attacked by a load of Death Eaters, and then no one died. No one got hurt. Because you can't do anything, because that's not what happened in the books. But then also, they attacked the Burrow for some reason. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let's skip on to the next one. I'd have to disclaimer now, I don't hate any of the movies. Apart from Cursed Child, but that doesn't count as a movie. That's a stage production, which is probably good to watch on stage, but from a Harry Potter fan standpoint, this is just not great. But none of these are bad, it's just which ones I prefer over the others. So the next one we'll go with is Chamber of Secrets, and this one, part of the reason I'm choosing this one in this position as the film, by the way, Chamber of Secrets film, is because I just felt it was a bit forgettable. It's just when you think of the Harry Potter franchise and you think, oh, of these great moments, none of them, I don't feel Chamber of Secrets is in my top there, and so that's why this one's going to get a lower down. Not saying I don't like it, I love it, but it's going to get a lower than some of the others because the others are just better. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Order of the Phoenix, and this is the book. This one I've talked about in my review back on the channel whenever I did that one. And the problem I had with that one was that it was too long. Some of the moments I liked were too short, and some of the scenes that I felt were a bit... there was just too many things going on that could have just been cut. As well as, I said, my whole issue with the end scenes of Order of the Phoenix, where they had the giant baby head and the weird brain things. I felt it was I know it wasn't intentionally supposed to be, but it was just weirdly comedic that it kind of fell flat, especially with the death of Sirius, which happened straight after, which is very weird in terms of that being the end point, that being a part and a fight with Lord Voldemort, and that follows Death Eater with giant baby head. I don't get why that was a thing. The next one I'm going to talk about is Deathly Hallows Part 1, the film. And this one I feel I have to give some credit to because it was still very entertaining. For example, the Malfoy Manor scenes and the scenes in the Ministry, they were great. But it suffers from being a part 1 of a series. Because when people write books, they follow a structure that I'm not saying all books are the same in terms of how progress happens, but you have a beginning and end and midpoint with things coming up along the way. And so if you split a film in half, you're losing that second half. So all those payoffs that are built up in the beginning of this movie that would have paid off at the end are now lost because you've set things up in this film that then when the film ends, you're like, well, what happens? What happens there? And so it was a very hard thing to do, and I understand they did a decent job of it, but you suffer from having this being a part 1, which is a bit of an issue. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is the Goblet of Fire film, and I know this is going to get some criticism because people love this film. I've spoken to people that love this film and say it's their favourite. The issue I have with this is the tasks got changed. For example, the third task, which went from being a maze with a load of animals and creatures in it that could show some of the basically could add as another way of building out this world by increasing adding a load of new creatures and things like that. That got completely removed. It became a maze that closes in on you, which was just a bit weird. The second task was a bit short. The first task was good. I felt like they spent most of their budget on the first task. And they had that whole scene with him in the Hogwarts. And that was good. I liked that. They skipped out the Quidditch World Cup, which annoyed me because I wanted to see a good Quidditch game and see the character Victor Crumb is very underdeveloped in terms of when he gets to Hogwarts and you're like, oh, he's a good Quidditch player, but how cool would it have been if you'd have seen him play and seen him play well? And so then when he came to Hogwarts in the movie, you were like, that's him, he's really good at Quidditch. I just feel I wanted to see that Quidditch World Cup. I want to see something, and it was just very short. And they focused on the whole Death Eater bit, and I actually want to see the Quidditch World Cup, and I was kind of upset about that. And not only that, but they kind of skip out the whole of Barty Crouch Jr.'s backstory, like the whole thing of him going to... You see him go to Azkaban, but then there's no explanation of how he got out. And it's just like, yeah, no, it's him. Yeah, he was there the whole time. And it suffers from the same thing that the book suffers from. It's the fact that Harry does nothing in terms of trying to work out what's going on with this plot. He's just there for the ride. He's like the viewers in the Triwizard Tournament. He's just there. And so it's obviously he has to focus on the tournament, but all the stuff that goes on, he's just he basically causes Voldemort to come back because he does nothing. And I know there's not much he can do, but I would have liked there to be some more discoverability on his part in terms of working out what was going on. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Chamber of Secrets book. And like I said, this one has too many plot conveniences for me. I felt the films did a good job of changing some of that stuff in terms of the whole more capable in terms of actually getting the sword and things like that. But especially that like the 3 times, is it 3 or 4 times where people get petrified because they don't look at the snake in the eye and no one notices the snake. And not only that, it's the fact that in the final scenes with the fight with the basilisk, it's like, oh yes, the snake hits the hat, flies into his hand, sword comes out, kills the snake, and it's very quick. And I feel there should be a lot more, that final scene should be a lot more stretched out than what it was. And that's the kind of issue I have with that. If we go to the next one, we're going to talk about the Prisoner of Azkaban film. And this one's different from the rest because this one has its own like unique style as a film, and from a filmmaker standpoint I can probably see them saying this one is one of the best in terms of the editing and just the nice camera shots and things like that. This one's great, but part of me is annoyed because it misses out the whole Marauder's backstory, which I would have liked Harry to discover a bit more about his parents really. And there were just quite a few bits missed out of this one that made it a bit lackluster, and it could seem, obviously you've got Pettigrew who escapes to then help Lord Voldemort come back to power, but this one seems very confined to a single story rather than the grand narrative. If we talk about the next one, which is the Philosopher's Stone film, and I've put the film here because I've put it higher than some of the others because it's a good film. It's not one of the best, but it's good, and it's the first kind of on-screen, not performance, but like imaging of the series. And so I like this one because it does the job very well, and it brings this world onto screen, and it just does such a good job. All the characters are all very well done. The acting choices were great. And obviously this is the first one, so I can give points here to acting choices because this is where they originally brought this thing to life and kind of introduced this world to a larger amount of people that hadn't read the books. So if we look at the next one, it's going to be the Philosopher's Stone, the book. And this one, as I can say, similar in terms of it the first book, so it's the first introduction to the world itself. And it just does a great job of introducing people to this world. I can't really say much more than this because it's got that, I don't know whether I'm putting this hype because of nostalgia, but it was the original book, the first book that in the series, and the first introduction of Harry and the Wizarding World, and it was just so well done, and I really like it. If we talk about the next one, we're going to go switch over. I'm using that word a lot. If we switch over. I don't know. Let's look at the next one. And that one is the Prisoner of Azkaban book. And I love this one. The issue with it is it's very isolated, like I said about the film. In the whole overarching narrative of the Harry Potter series, it's very isolated in terms of not a lot happens that affects the rest. But it's a good book, and it includes all that stuff about the Marauders, Harry learning about his parents, and especially his father and his father's friends at school, and it introduced the character of Sirius and Lupin, who's one of my favourites. And so I felt this one does a very good job of doing that, as well as continuing those characters and building them. It's just a great one. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Goblet of Fire book. So this is great. I like this one because it's got similar problems as the film, but this one does a great job because the tasks themselves are, obviously these are the main tasks. This is the original, and so all the tasks here I can't fault them, and it shows Harry's capability as a character that the others kind of didn't, because in the fifth book Harry talks about, oh yeah, it's all just luck, and some of it has been, especially with scenes in, like, say, the second one where he's fighting the basilisk. It all seems to just be flung at him, and so this one kind of proves his capability as a character, and he manages to do well, although yes, they are kind of rigged because Death Eaters, but it does, especially against the dragon. That one's a great example of Harry's competency as a character. But like I said, it also doesn't do well, this book, because Harry doesn't learn anything about what's going on. He's very oblivious to the whole plot with the Death Eaters, and he learns a few things through, like, dreams, but doesn't put anything together, and is just happened to come across some things. And yes, the reader can work it out, because as it's going, reader can be like, oh, okay, that's off. But Harry's like, yeah, I got tasks to focus on, I don't care about this. And then he ends up bringing back Lord Voldemort, which is great. So the next one we're going to talk about is Deathly Hallows Part 2 film, obviously. And this one does a great job of concluding this whole series. And this one is great because it's the special effects on this with all the fight scenes. There's some examples of, like, fights in Hogwarts in, like, the rafters. I don't know what you call it, but you've got Voldemort using, like, his, like, robes. You've got I think Kingsley Shacklebolt, like, freezes people in the midair, and there's just some great scenes. And this one benefits from that kind of increase in special effects and that increase in budget, and it just does so well in bringing this. Yeah, the only issue I have with this one is Voldemort's death. It was kind of explained after the fact, and not to Voldemort. Voldemort had no idea, and also Voldemort as a character just starts doing this weird cinematic thing they thought they would be good. Was it just starts, like, flaking and becomes like dandruff? It's a bit weird. I liked the book because he just died, and that showed how he is a mortal, like, human, rather than what he was trying to do and, like, to conquer death. He is, and so. But then again, people with a body of Voldemort might have been a bit weird. I don't know. I don't know how you want to do it there, but I felt they kind of needed to do that thing. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the last three. And in the number 3 spot, we're going to have Order of the Phoenix, the film. And this one is one of the best films due to just the pacing, and it does so much better than the book of this, because these are so far apart on my list, because the book is too long, the pacing's off, and the scene at the end are naff. The film, the pacing's great, the ending scene is better than the book, I'd argue, and it benefits from the whole visual form of the of being a movie, especially, like I mentioned in the Deathly Hallows Part 2 bit. With the VFX on this is just great. You've got the fight between Dumbledore and Lord Voldemort. There you go, got it out in the end. And especially with, like, balls of fire, like glass, water, was it like a snake of fire? I think that was not a ball of fire, but and that one just does well. The death of Sirius was done much better. It's more it's more like explained rather than, because it was like a curtain thing and it wasn't too sure. But this one is a bit better, and the fight scene manages to retain that tension that's been building, as this is the final part where it's a life and death situation and there's no giant baby heads. But yeah, no, this one's good. And like I said, I'd argue that the ending of this was better than the book. So number 2. It's a bit different from my reviews of the books because they're gonna be. My opinions change. And so number 2 here is the Deathly Hallows book. And this does that great job of bringing the end to the series. It isn't split into 2 parts like the films, so the narrative structure makes sense. Everything that's set up and any things that are like built on are then get their payoff near the ending of the book. You've got bits and pieces, and it doesn't seem... The pacing of this seems better, because in the films, especially with part 1, it's kind of dragged up. There's a lot of like camping scenes, which they'd had to stretch out because they needed to fill that 2-hour mark with only like 300 pages. And so it was kind of difficult there, but they managed to do it, managed to make it work. And this one has some great moments, and like I said, it's constantly moving forward in terms of narrative, and I don't think there's a dull scene in this book. It just keeps going and going. And now for the number 1 spot, as you might have already guessed, because my review is the exact same, the Half-Blood Prince book. This one does such a good job, and what it does is it doesn't focus on the teen drama. The teen drama was never a big part. It was Voldemort's background and his growth as like a character before he became Voldemort. You had the question over who was the Half-Blood Prince and what that was all about, and then you had Draco's mission to kill Dumbledore. Those were the 3 main parts, and then you just had teen drama that was kind of there, and it's not a big part. And like I said, the film chose to focus on the wrong part. I like this one because of the Voldemort's backstory and the fact that it fleshes him out as a character, and he's not just some Dark Lord that's bad because he's bad. It gives reasoning to it. Obviously not making him like something you agree with, but one of the best types of villains are villains that you can understand why they're doing things. The villain always feels that they are right. That's the point. And so just having some random dude that's just like, yeah, no, I want to kill everyone and hate people because I just do. And that's just a terrible way to fight a villain. And so having this delves further into the backstory of Voldemort and makes him more understanding as a villain, and just makes it so much better because of it. And this one is very entertaining, and the pacing of this is just brilliant. So thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget, I stream over on Twitch, so go over there, check that out, ring the bell so you can see when I next go live. If you want to speak to me or any others about the books or about the channel or anything like that, we've got the Discord, so I'll leave a link for that down there as well. And if you'd like to buy the book series or the film series, I'll leave 2 links down there for you guys to go check that out. If you go through those links, it helps the channel because some of it goes back to me to help upgrade the channel. If you want to let me know of any books you want to see me review or anything like that, any content you want, comment section down below, go leave your messages down there. And below me will be a link back to the channel to subscribe, and there will be a video chosen by the YouTube algorithm. Go check that out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.